focusing on what products you want to bring to market and how you then organize your organization around that is critical. And so that leads us to another story that we'll see how impactful it really is, but at least is indicative of how much Microsoft is investing in this, not just in money, but in how they're approaching the entire market. So they have an announcement that they made this week, that they've created a new group, I guess. I guess that's what you call it. It's not a division, I don't think, but it's called Core AI, and effectively trying to centralize all of their core AI functionality into this one operating unit, as a way to reorganize themselves around this technology. And I think it's important and indicative of the fact that it demonstrates their commitment to this space and how they're trying to refocus their energy around it.
Yeah. What part of what I found really interesting about this is that they're bringing together their developers, their AI platform, supercomputing, runtime computing, engineering resources, and they are literally putting that all together into a single team being led at the top by Jay Parikh. So, that, and I'm wondering to what extent this might actually happen in our own IT departments over time. That we might have to fundamentally realign some of our resources to match AI and agentic management, because our current setup might be a little antiquated or doesn't really bring all the smarts together in a way that support automated processes and agentic work.
Well, I mean, so I think there's both the good and the bad, or the positive and not as positive lessons to be learned from this. So one, I think, I have great respect for Satya Nadella, and I think this is another great example of leadership. I've been around too many reorgs to know that the reorg itself isn't what's important, right? It in fact, it creates friction, it creates overhead because you now spend all this time doing all of that.
Mhm.
But here's why reorgs, especially this sort of reorg, is important, because it's a very visible communication to your teams about what the organization values. And in that way, I agree with you. I think if I'm a CIO today, I am going to make a step like this, even though I know I'm going to pay for it in the short run in terms of a productivity hit and all of that, because it is a signaling process. It is telling my teams that this is changing our business. It has to change the way we function. The less positive side is, as I was going through this and they're talking about all of these teams, and this is Microsoft's challenge, right? It's their opportunity, but it's also their challenge, because they are just so big. The fact that they have so many teams led by so many senior executives to execute against this. It speaks to just how big the tech is, but it really just speaks to how large and unwieldy the organization is. And so their great challenge, and I think this will help them, right? But their great challenge is, can they move fast enough? Can they continue to keep pace with the changes? I mean, the thing that I think people have continually underestimated about OpenAI and their ability to innovate in the market is that, in part, they have a very small, very smart, but very small team. And because of that, they can move very, very quickly. So I think that's the challenge in front of Microsoft. But overall, I applaud this move, and I think it's going to be really a really important step to help reorient and refocus the organization.
Yeah, so we've been a fan in general of Microsoft working in AI. They've had some challenges, but you also pointed out a story showing that even Microsoft is having some commercial challenges as well. We saw also covered in The Verge that Microsoft is relaunching Copilot for Business with AI chat and pay-as-you-go agents. They're kind of changing the product itself as well as the pricing, because they're trying to get these customers to start paying $30 a month for Copilot, and that conversion right now is challenging for Microsoft as well. So we picked on Google a little bit, but Google, you're not the only ones. Microsoft is having some challenges as well there.
I think Microsoft is much better positioned than Google in many ways around this, but I agree, and I think that part of their challenge is a marketing challenge in this, but it goes hand in hand with just being as big as they are. So at one point we talked about, I think that they have something like 130 versions of their Copilot in market, covering this huge swath. And I had to read this article 3 times before I actually got it. That Copilot Chat is the former Bing Chat, and it's not the same as their Office Copilot. So there's a, I don't know if it's in this article or not. There's a diagram, yeah, this one, where it has like what's in what, and it was like, okay, because when I first read it, I thought they were taking their Office Copilot and making it available on a per usage, like a metered basis, and that isn't, well, it's not entirely what they're doing. So it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's really confusing. It's not Office, but you can ground it in the work if you want to create your own agent, and it's then metered, which sort of aligns it with the Salesforce approach of how they're doing it, but I think this is part of the challenge. It's just super confusing. If I'm a CIO, it's like, how many cycles, brain cells do I want to invest in trying to figure out how this thing works and what the pricing and how much it's going to cost me? And I think that's the issue. But I do think it is indicative of the fact that they are struggling to get uptake. And I certainly have heard this from a number of CIOs that I've talked to, that the $30 a month starts making sense for only a very, very small sliver of their employee base. People that are just, office jockeys that are in it all the time. And so I think that is definitely a challenge. And it's a challenge for all of the AI companies as they struggle to make sure they find use cases and align them to business and pricing models that make sense.
Yeah, and we seem to be running into these splits in the market where we saw that OpenAI is selling their $200 a month plan to super users, and they're using it all day and all night. And yes, they're not profitable, but the fact that they're not shows that there's at least an ability to use ChatGPT at scale for those power users. But yeah, I think that at the general user level, there's still a lot of confusion. Like even with this Copilot chat, it's the offering is to use the search engine chat. Basically very similar to Gemini from as a product, but also being able to put things like Office documents into that. But this is not the Office Copilot, so it's too confusing right now to be used by the end user. Right now, users need a single product that handles all of the productivity issues that they're running into. And then maybe it starts making more sense because I don't have to figure out which type of Copilot I'm using in which situation. And that rationalization still has to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's super, super confusing. And I think that is a challenge with, and again, for everybody, I think Microsoft in particular, just because they cover so much ground, and it makes it hard. And this is, I think, the opportunity for the startups, for the folks that are kind of carving out a space where they can sort of cut through that and deliver a much more concise and
Mm-hmm.
clear message into the market. I did look up, by the way, OpenAI ChatGPT, and I think you were closer. Actually, it says 100 million weekly active users. Um, and 180 million total users. So, whatever in the number was
Still not
close.
500. Still
Still
not
not
anywhere close to
500.
500. Yeah.